Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in a sea of tiny, everyday problems? Like you're constantly putting out these little fires, but the smoke just keeps getting thicker? Well, today, we're going to talk about why that feeling is so common, and more importantly, how to break free. Let's dive in.
Okay, this quote right here. This is the key to our entire explainer. Think of it like a riddle. And by the end of our time together, you're not just going to understand what it means. You'll know exactly how to use it in your own life.
All right, first things first, we need to understand the battlefield. We have to define the space where most of us are fighting our daily struggles. And it has a name, the micro-maze.
The micro-maze. I mean, you know this feeling. It's when you're nose to the glass with your worries. You're so close to them, so wrapped up in them, that they basically become your entire reality. It's like this mental prison we build for ourselves, one small concern at a time.
So what are the walls of this maze actually made of? Well, they're built from all those little things, right? A project deadline gets pushed back. A weird comment from a friend gets under your skin. An unexpected bill pops up. Now, on their own, any one of these is no big deal. But when they pile up, they create a prison. And they suck up all of our focus and all of our energy.
Now, here's what's so important to understand. Feeling trapped like this, it's not a personal failure. It is not a sign that you're weak. The source material frames it as something totally different. It's a critical processing error. Think of it like a bug in your mental software, not a flaw in your character.
And that brings us to the real diagnosis. See, if being trapped in the maze isn't a character flaw, then what is it? It turns out the way we usually react to these problems is exactly what makes the maze walls feel like they're closing in.
We all have a word for this feeling, don't we? Stress. It's this heavy thing we're just told we have to learn to deal with. But what if that word, that label itself, is the real problem? What if calling it stress is actually stopping us from ever fixing it?
And here it is. This is the crucial shift. We've been taught to call this feeling stress and just sort of endure it. But the real diagnosis is cognitive tunnel vision. And that's not just a feeling. It's a processing error we can actually solve. This one little change in framing turns us from someone who just suffers into someone who can actually solve the problem.
So what's our first instinct when we hit a wall? We stare at it, right? We focus harder. We throw all our mental energy at it. But that's totally backward. It doesn't actually help solve anything. It just cranks up the heat, that panicked, emotional fog that just clouds our judgment. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? That delayed project, it's one data point in a long career. That awkward comment, one data point in a friendship. But when we're in that tunnel vision, we treat that single negative point as if it's the only thing that exists in the world.
And this is what happens. We mistake a simple glitch for a total system crash. We see one crooked brick, one single annoying problem, and we convince ourselves the entire building of our life is about to come crumbling down. That's the lie that micro-maze tells us.
Okay, so that's the problem. How do we fix this bug in our mental software? How do we actually escape the maze? Let's get to the solution because it's a practical skill you can start using literally today.
The tool is called perspective scaling. And listen, it's not about ignoring the problem. Not at all. It's about learning how to zoom out. It's the conscious choice to stop staring at that one crooked brick so you can see the whole blueprint again.
And it really comes down to a simple three-step process. First, identify. Just notice, hey, I'm fixating on this one brick. Second, detach. Take a mental step back. Your identity, your self-worth is not tied to this one single problem. And third, scale. Intentionally zoom your perspective way out, like you're looking down on the whole situation from the stratosphere.
Now, this ability to get that high-level stratosphere view, it's not just some clever mental trick. It's actually powered by a very specific, very strategic way of thinking.
And that powerful mindset has a name: Strategic Stoicism. Now, don't let the name throw you off. This isn't about ancient Roman philosophy. Think of it as a modern, practical upgrade. It's the mental operating system that allows the perspective scaling software to run smoothly. The core ideas here are simple, but they are absolutely life-changing. First, detach your identity from any single outcome. You are not your last success, and you're not your last failure. Second, always force yourself to see the whole picture, the entire data set, not just that one negative point. And this last one, this is so crucial. You have to keep the whole map in view. Because, as I say in systems thinking, the second you lose sight of the edges of the map, you have lost your ability to navigate completely.
And that brings us right back to where we started.
The solution to escaping the micromaze is simply remembering who you are. You are the architect of your life. That blueprint? That's your values, your long-term goals. And that crooked brick? It's just a temporary problem that needs to be fixed. It's not a crisis that gets to define your entire building.
So that's the question I want to leave you with. Think about your life right now. What are those things that are causing you stress? Are you staring at a brick, or are you seeing the blueprint? Because learning to tell the difference, well, that's not just a clever trick. That's the key to your freedom. Thanks for joining us.
All right, let's talk about a cognitive trap that gets all of us. It's that bug in our own thinking that can make a tiny, insignificant glitch feel like a complete and total system meltdown. We're going to figure out what it is, and more importantly, how to fix it.
So, let me ask you this. Have you ever had one tiny little problem, a single pixel in the giant picture of your life that just completely balloons in your mind? It just grows and grows until it feels like this massive, unbeatable mountain? Yeah, we've all been there, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today.
And this quote right here, it just nails it. The feeling isn't about the world crushing you. It's about your own refusal to zoom out. The problem isn't really the problem itself. It's the zoom level you're stuck on.
Now, this feeling of being trapped by all the little things, well, it has a name. We can call it the micro maze. It's that state of being so locked onto what's right in front of your face that you completely lose the map.
You know the feeling, right? You're practically nose to the glass with whatever's stressing you out. Maybe it's a project that's just a few days late, or some weird comment a friend made, or a tiny dip in your bank account. When you're in that micro maze, those things don't just feel big, they feel like the only thing.
So what's really going on here? What's the diagnosis for this? Well, it's more than just stress. It's a very specific cognitive error called systemic blindness. And it's a state where your intense focus on one tiny problem literally shuts down your ability to see the whole system.
Systemic blindness is exactly what it sounds like. You get so hyper-focused on one little local error that your brain's high-level strategic thinking just goes dark. You develop this intense cognitive tunnel vision. You're staring at one flawed piece of data and you totally lose sight of the entire system you're working within.
Okay, so what's happening inside your head? It's something called the amygdala hijack. It all starts when your brain fixates on that one tiny problem. That intense focus flips a switch in your amygdala. That's your brain's alarm system, and it screams, threat. And here's the kicker. That alarm basically tells your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, to go home for the day. Your strategic mind just gets completely shut down.
In the world of systems thinking, there's a technical name for this. It's a resolution error. You're trying to solve a huge macro-level problem using only tiny micro-level data. It's a complete mismatch. It's like trying to explore a new city by looking at it through a microscope. It just doesn't work.
And this, right here, is the perfect way to picture it. Imagine you're running this incredibly complex simulation of your life, but your screen is accidentally zoomed in 1,000%. Of course, every little pixel is going to look like a mountain. Every tiny glitch seems like a world-ending disaster because you have absolutely no context.
Living in this constant state of tunnel vision has a real, tangible cost. It builds up this kind of cognitive debt that we can call perspective debt. And while you're rocking it up, the actual large-scale architecture of your life, well, it starts to crumble.
So what is perspective debt? It's all that mental energy you're wasting. You spend all your time firefighting, just reacting to every little alarm bell, every bit of small-scale noise. And while you're busy running around putting out these tiny fires, the big stuff, your goals, your plans, your overall well-being, that's the stuff that's actually burning down from neglect.
I mean, look at the difference here. On the one side, you've got firefighting mode. You're just reacting, you're using incomplete data, and you're totally stuck inside the knot, yanking on one thread. But on the other side, you have architecture mode. Here, you're designing the system, you're seeing the big patterns, and you're the one weaving those patterns together.
And that's the real cost, isn't it? When you're stuck in the micro maze, you lose that pattern weaver advantage. It's your superpower, but you can't see the patterns that are shaping your life if you're tangled up inside the knot itself.
Okay, so that's the problem. How do we fix it? Well, the answer isn't to work harder or to stare more intensely at that tiny problem. The solution is to change your vantage point entirely. You need to adopt what we'll call the architect's view.
This metaphor just perfectly captures it. We're all architects of our own lives, right? But when systemic blindness takes over, we forget that we even have a blueprint.
We get so completely fixated on one single, slightly crooked brick, convinced that this one little flaw is going to bring the entire building down.
So the tool to get this architect's view is something called Strategic Stoicism. Now don't let the name fool you. This isn't about just gritting your teeth and enduring pain. No. It's a strategy. It's the practice skill of detaching from that immediate emotional problem and mentally flying up to the stratosphere to look down on your own life. From up there, you can see the whole map again.
So let's bring this all home. What's the one actionable takeaway from all of this? It's that the core skill we have to build is the ability to consciously, deliberately scale our own perspective.
And remember, the move is never, ever to just stare harder at the pixel. That just makes it bigger and triggers that amygdala hijack all over again. The real skill, the absolute art form here, is mastering the zoom out. It's about knowing when it's time to pull back and get some context. So the mental shift is this simple. You have to make a conscious choice to stop obsessing over that one crooked brick and instead force yourself to look at the entire blueprint. That's it. That's where you'll find your clarity. That's where you'll find the right way to move forward.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. Take a second right now and really ask yourself, what is the one pixel, the one crooked brick that you need to stop staring at today so you can finally see the bigger picture?
Today, we're going to talk about the very architecture of how we think. More importantly, we're going to dive into a powerful mental tool that can help you cut through the noise of daily stress and find real clarity. It's all about learning how to scale your perspective.
So, let me just ask you this, right off the bat. That feeling you call stress, what if it's not actually the problem? What if it's just your viewing angle? What if you're not really overwhelmed, you're just standing way too close to the picture? That's the big question we're going to unpack here.
And that question leads us directly to our first section. See, we first have to understand the environment most of us are living in, usually without even knowing it. It's a place we can call the micromaze.
I mean, think about your day-to-day. A project at work hits a delay, you say something awkward to a friend, an unexpected bill pops up. These little, immediate, ground-level issues, they can become our entire world, right? They feel like the walls of a maze, and they block our view of everything else, just soaking up all our focus.
You know, there's actually a technical name for this state, cognitive tunnel vision. And what's key here is that it's framed not as some kind of emotional weakness, but as a critical processing error. It's like you've completely lost sight of the edges of the map. And if you can't see the map, well, you can't navigate. You're just lost.
So, what's our usual response when this happens? We're told to just focus harder, right? To double down on the problem. But that leads us straight to our next big idea. Why that kind of narrow focus so often fails.
This comparison really nails the mistake we all make. That project delay? It's a glitch. It's just one single temporary data point. It is not a full-on system crash where your entire life's data set is now corrupted. But because of that cognitive tunnel vision, we react with the same panic and intensity as if everything is on fire.
And this metaphor, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. Imagine you're an architect. You've got the plans for this magnificent cathedral, this grand design for your life, for your goals. But all of your attention, all your mental energy is just fixated on one single crooked brick. You completely forget about the incredible structure it's supposed to be a part of.
So, if staring at that crooked brick is the problem, then the solution has to be changing your vantage point. It's time to get a view from above. And this is an active technique, something we can actually learn to do.
So the technique itself is sometimes called strategic stoicism, or if you're into systems thinking, macro perspective scaling. It's really just the practice of consciously, deliberately, shifting your internal coordinate system away from the emotional, immediate I and zooming out to the bigger, more impersonal system. And let's be super clear, this isn't about escaping your problems. It's a technical requirement for high-level strategic thinking.
Okay, so how do you actually do it? You basically just move your internal camera. You start at ground level, right where you are with the problem smack in your face. Then you consciously pull back, zoom out to the atmospheric level. Ask yourself, how does this look from the perspective of 100 years, or from the other side of the planet? And then you zoom out one more time, all the way to the cosmic level. From the vantage point of an entire galaxy, what is this problem really?
And performing this mental shift, it has a pretty profound and immediate effect. It's not just some fun thought experiment. It's a tool for achieving a very specific state of mind, what we can call systemic calm.
I mean, just look at this.
When you're stuck at ground level, the emotional voltage of your problem is maxed out. It feels enormous, critical, like it's everything. But as you zoom out to that cosmic level, watch what happens to the voltage. It just drops, all the way to pretty much zero. Your crisis is revealed for what it actually is, a statistically tiny blip in a vast, orderly system.
And that, right there, is the whole payoff. When all that emotional noise dies down, you're left with this systemic calm. And again, this isn't just about feeling better. This is a state of deep, profound clarity. It's the stable platform you need to finally think strategically, to see the whole board, and to make truly effective decisions.
So this brings us to the final, and maybe the most important transformation. Mastering this skill isn't just a coping mechanism for a bad day. It's a fundamental shift in how you operate in the world. It's about going from being a pawn to becoming the architect of your own era.
This really lays out the ultimate choice, doesn't it? You can be the victim of the moment, just endlessly reacting, trying to fix every single crooked brick, every malfunctioning pixel on the screen. Or you can be the architect of the era, someone who steps back and focuses on realigning the entire cognitive architecture that's creating the picture in the first place.
So what does this shift actually give you? Well, for one, you regain the ability to see the long-term threads that connect all the different events in your life. You get to move from that passive role of a victim to the active role of an architect. You stop just reacting to what the world throws at you, and you actually start designing your own path through it.
And that's where we'll leave it. This tool, this technique, gives you access to the blueprint. It pulls you out of the maze and gives you that incredible view of the entire structure. So the only question left, and it's the most important one, is this. Now that you can see the blueprint, what are you going to build?
All right, today we're diving into a really powerful mental model. It's designed to break you free from that day-to-day overwhelm that, let's be honest, can stifle even the highest performers. We're calling it perspective scaling, and you can think of it as a tool for seeing the whole blueprint, especially when you're stuck just staring at a single crooked brick.
You know, this quote just gets right to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? It's a perfect metaphor for a cognitive trap we all fall into. We get so fixated on one small, frustrating detail, that one crooked brick, that we completely lose sight of the magnificent structure we're actually trying to build.
So, what is this trap exactly? Let's give it a name so we can really define the core problem that keeps so many brilliant minds stuck. This is section 1. We're calling it being trapped in the micro maze. We're going to explore exactly what it feels like to be stuck in this state.
The micro maze. It's that feeling of being completely trapped by immediate stressors. You know what I mean? That project delay suddenly feels like an absolute catastrophe. A weird comment from someone feels like a huge personal failing. A temporary dip in your finances feels like the end of the world. You're just so close to the problem, you literally can't see anything else.
This idea actually pulls from a core principle in systems thinking. See, being trapped in the micro maze isn't just a feeling, it's a critical processing error. When your entire focus is on one tiny little coordinate, you've completely lost the edges of the map. And if you don't have the map, well, you can't navigate. You're just reacting, not strategizing.
Now, this processing error, it's not some kind of character flaw. Not at all. It's a cognitive glitch. Think of it like a bug in our mental software that we can actually identify and fix. And that brings us right to section 2, where we're going to name this bug the cognitive tunnel vision error.
This table just lays out the two paths perfectly. The flawed approach, which is our default, right, is to just stare harder at the problem. But all that does is increase the emotional heat and makes us treat a tiny little glitch like a total system crash. The strategic approach, on the other hand, is all about detachment. It's about viewing your life from the stratosphere, separating your identity from the local problem and seeing it for what it truly is, just a single data point.
Okay, so we know the error, but how do we actually correct it? I mean, how do you learn to zoom out and implement this kind of strategic thinking, what we'll call strategic stoicism, especially when you're under pressure?
Well, the answer is a clear, actionable framework. And that brings us to section 3, the scaling protocol. This is a 3-step mental exercise you can run anytime you feel yourself getting sucked back into that micro maze. So the protocol has 3 distinct steps: spatial zooming, temporal stretching, and archetypal alignment. Each one is designed to systematically dismantle the power that a small-scale problem has over your mind. So let's break them down one by one.
Step 1 is spatial zooming. So when a problem feels totally overwhelming, I want you to run this mental exercise.
Picture yourself in your room. Okay, got it? Now zoom out to see your building, then your whole city. Keep pulling back until you see your country, the continent, and finally, the entire Earth just floating in space. Really feel how physically small that problem is now relative to the vastness of the whole system.
Step 2 is temporal stretching. This one operates on the axis of time. All you do is ask yourself 2 simple questions. Will this specific issue truly matter in 10 years? Okay, how about in 100 years? This works like a ruthless filter for deciding what really deserves your energy.
Now, if the answer to those questions is no, and let's be real, it almost always is, then your instruction is simple. You have to consciously delete the emotional priority of that event from your neural OS. You're literally actively recoding your own operating system to ignore insignificant error messages.
And finally, step 3 is archetypal alignment. This step puts your struggle into context. I want you to compare your current catastrophe to the monumental challenges faced by the great thinkers, builders, and leaders throughout history. Now, the point isn't to diminish what you're going through, but to give it the proper scale. It's a powerful reminder that you have a high-bandwidth mind, so stop wasting it on micro-noise.
So, we've defined the problem, we've identified the cognitive error, and we've laid out the 3-step protocol to fix it. This brings us to our final section. Start building your cathedral. It's time to shift your perspective and get your eyes back on the blueprint.
This right here is the ultimate takeaway. The goal of this entire mental model is to empower you to lift your gaze from that single crooked brick, that minor setback, that temporary frustration, and refocus on the magnificent cathedral you are here to build. That is where your attention belongs.
So, if you're ready to master perspective scaling, make sure you're subscribed to Unordinary Mind. And as your first action step, comment Zoom down below and we'll send you our macro system calibration sheet to help you really integrate this protocol into your daily life. Thanks for tuning in.